Okay, so today I'm going to talk about a interoperable media framework in the context of streaming linear delivery channels, but trying to make it more scalable. I'm doing this in conjunction with Ricardo Rezendi from Globo TV, who is going to be describing kind of like a specialized work case for the broadcaster. Now, where's my thing? Okay. So a little bit in the talk, I'm going to talk a little bit about the market background, and then we'll talk about the media framework, then we'll talk about some of the existing technologies and methods that are already there, and then wrap it up with the use case of you have broadcasters out there, and we'll talk about an international broadcaster, Globo TV, but we'll also take the case of a national US-based broadcaster here. So this is kind of a diagram I grabbed from Nielsen. It kind of gives a bit of information here. One is, according to what they did in 2025 is people who are watching TV are watching a lot of streaming TV, and they're saying about 44.8%. I suspect every month you'll see that number growing. So, it's ever increasing on that. But if you see on the left-hand side, there are a number of companies over there. There are a number of subscription premium streaming channels out there. And what's going to happen is some of these are paid, and there's a lot of them, and so the consumer itself may not take all of them because eventually it'll get kind of costly, but they'll take a shorter number of them. But there's also this other thing called fast channels, which are free channels out there. And as you can see on that, they've been tracking that as well. And of that number, 5.7% of that is growing in viewing, and I suspect that would also be growing in viewing over there. And why are these fast channels or advertising video on demand channels, what are their benefits? Well, one, there's no subscription fatigue because there's no subscription. The content is available, and there's no lack of content over there. It's just a question of how do I get a channel up and get enough advertising to support that. There's no commitment necessary. It could be have a global outreach. And then for the consumer, it's lower cost and a bigger library over there. But the more and more fast channels you get, the more and more of a niched audience you get. If you look at it, it's free to the consumer, but in the background, it's got to supplement that with an advertising model. So for the advertiser, they're going to be looking at this and saying, well, how do I increase my ad value on this? Well, you can take a fast channel and increase the audience, or you can take it and of the audience you already have, get more targeted towards those types of people that the advertisers would have. So if you have too many of these fast channels, does it lead to ad value dilution? If I have 3,000 fast channels, how many people are actually watching each channel over there? So what is this media framework I'm talking about? Well, it sets the landscape on media distribution paths. Normally when we're talking about streaming, it's usually server to client. But in this case, we're also bringing in from the end-to-end workflow, which has a business-to-business interface. You'll have a couple of different entities in there, including the channel provider, the content owner, and the distributor, and of course the advertiser. What this does is it tries to set that landscape, also tries to indicate the underlying advertising support infrastructure in there. It's adaptable for channels, assets, and live events. And on top of this, it's not just exchanging for the content, but also all the metadata that's going in there. And if you understand, with different entities, at the boundaries of each point, you have the chance of dropping information. That happens a lot. So what we try to do in the media framework is take a look at the landscape over there and see how you can utilize the synergies between broadcasting, IP, and streaming. And it's nothing new. This is a simple diagram I'm putting up here. I will show this diagram again a couple of times, but in more details. But if you see it, the entities you have is a fast channel provider who's organizing the channel. He may have his own content. He may be getting other people's content. He's sending it over to a distributor, one or more distributors, who also may have their own content or maybe getting their own content. And in the middle of this, you have an ad system. It could be content inventory swap, or it could be ad decisioning to the point of targeting of clients or targeting of contextual metadata in the content. And then this gets delivered to the client. As I was repeating again, the boundaries between this thing is where information can get dropped, or it's where tailored solutions may come up. So you see this sometimes where I may have a tailored solution for, this type of distributor who, if I wanted to send that same fast channel to another, may have a different tailored solution in there. And one of the things I should mention is if you wanted to widen your audience on your fast channel, you want to have it on different platforms. So this is why, if you want to increase your ad value on your channel, this is one of the reasons why you do it. The other thing is, in this case, it's an evolving technology, so you're building and rebuilding. If you establish a media framework on this, at least you can get all these different entities trying to evolve on the same path. And then lastly, hopefully this is one of the business models to this would be trying to, I guess, have less constraints on the technology platform. So what we did in SCTE was not come up with a standard. We came out with a recommended practice that kind of described this, and then also pointed out there's, from our linear broadcasting experiences, there's a lot of useful infrastructure that could be used in other places here. Again, this is the same diagram, but a lot more complex here. On the left-hand side is that same channel provider, which in this case, he has his own parts where he's putting his own files together along with live feeds, and he's creating his linear channel, which he may be putting onto his own streaming platform. Or he may be sending his feed as a linear contribution feed onto a distributor who may be taking that, transcoding that, and creating their own broadcast feed to their part, or creating their own streaming part over there. On the right-hand side is the distributor, where he has encoders, he has packagers, origin servers, CDNs, etc. And he combines it with his ad systems over there. So you could have things like, for a broadcaster, it would be, I have a national commercial, but I might have slots in there that would replace it for local commercials from the distributor. So, and then on the right is more of the streaming aspects in here, where I might have a CDN, a JIT-P over here, and then this may be creating manifests and SSAIs and stuff like that to have clients have their own thing. So as you see, there's a number of channel input sources in here where you could get it from a linear feed, but you could also get it from the content segments that are already created from the channel owner, or you're creating your own content segments. The client outputs are like a set-top box, or it could be you're allowing the channel owner's app to be writing on your set-top box and you see it from that, or it might be the distributor's app that's creating a collected set of channels to do this. And throughout this, if you see, the advertising is spread about over here, because there's a number of ways you can bring it in. So for SCTE35, it may start out in a linear broadcast as 104, that then gets translated to a 35 marker, or you may have those markers in the linear feed, or you may have it in the content over here, or it may just be directly from the packager. So there's a number of ways that could be doing it. And then you may have other parts where you're triggering the ads through server-guided ad insertion or through an SSAI, and you may have beaconing approaches on this. But the thing is, with this media model, or just thinking in this part, you can pin different types of technologies onto it, onto a framework, and have this end-to-end perspective, trying to figure out what are the impacts on other parts. So at the core of this is trying to take a different look at a linear broadcast channel. And before, what you do is you basically encode the channel 24 hours a day to this. But since that channel is made up of a lot of assets, which can actually be pre-encoded, and we see this in the streaming where they're stitching together the VOD channel. We can kind of do the same thing in here. So this top diagram here kind of describes that, also describes the ad decisioning, over here. And if you look at it from this perspective, and we've had people from Turner talking about this, it's like, well, I can save a lot because I'm only encoding the assets once. And they were thinking about things like a channel, which is all just basically assets here. It reduces my QC, increases validation. You can separate out the encryption from the DRM. You can drive this by a single instruction set rather than multiple manifests. And you can repurpose the existing equipment infrastructures. And then lastly, when we were looking at this, you can put this in different modes. So if you look at the fast channels, you can have a fast channel which is sort of like a static playlist, but then you can have an explicitly defined channel, which is the channel owner saying, for every second, this is what should be playing, or this is the slot for the content that should be playing. Or, as we were discussing, we could have a channel schedule in there where you may have this concept of a window where I'm saying, as a channel owner, I'm saying, play the movie Superman from 12 to 2. And the movie may be an hour and a half, but the distributor can indicate how to kind of fill it if you give it the right ad markers. Okay. So with this kind of structure and using broadcast IP and streaming, you could come up with a lot of different interesting things. Of course, you can come up with the fast ad channels. You can actually have information sent for integrated guides. You can create a dynamic playlist one. You could do things like a live event that turns into a fast channel. You also have library channels over here where you can create, if you have a library at the distributor, you can create a channel and may be unique for that. You can deal with client-side overlays and a number of other things. And I need to move this since I only have about 4.5 minutes left. Okay. These are just diagrams of that same diagram I was mentioning, but in more detail. So if you want to look at this, look at SCT 301, these diagrams are in here. That was the channel owner. This is the distributor. All right, now let's go to the broadcast use cases. So for a broadcaster, they have a national channel and they have their affiliate channels. And so in one case, they're trying to create multiple number of channels over there. So one of the first problems they have is handling multiple versions of a channel. And I was describing the affiliate, but then you have things like station bugs where I might have the same channel mostly, but I have the news from the local area and I need to put a station bug on that as well, which is a graphics overlay. The other thing is they need to take all these channels, and they're also doing it over the air, but they're also trying to put it on different distribution systems, like a cable distribution system or like a streaming app on there. So they have to figure out how to get these channels onto the streaming app, and you have different ways of putting those together. So those are kind of the areas that they're looking at. So a little bit of description on global TV. Brazil is huge. It's about the same size as the US, mainland US. It has about 5 owned stations. They have 118 affiliates, covers a lot of territory, and have a large population. So this is a pretty good use case for this. But they have some interesting stuff over here. So remember when I talked about that first initial diagram? You had the channel owner, you had the distributor sending it over here. And in the Globo case, what they're trying to do is create a centralized process or a centralized service for the affiliates. So in this case, the affiliate is the channel owner, and the national group, or the ones doing the central broadcaster, is the distributor to this. So as you see, the affiliate down over here is sending all their programming. Then the national guys are putting in their programs, and then they're handling all the ads and stuff over here. And then what they do is they send it out to become a streaming type of packager over here, and then they can send it out on their integrated app over here. In the US, talking to some of these people, they have the reverse, where the channel owner is the national feed, and the affiliate is the distributor. So they're doing this, and it gets really interesting because of the dynamics on how to give your rights to streaming apps. So in that case, do you negotiate with the national feed? Do you negotiate with affiliates? And nationally, that's kind of, they're negotiating with the affiliates. So, you know, a streaming app may not have all the local variations of the station. They have to do individual rights for this. So in that case, it made more sense to have it where the affiliates are the distributors over here. And so, let me see what else. Yeah, so they kind of use that part. But the important thing on this is, you know, have the ability within the same framework to handle kind of the landscape on both of these. So in conclusions, the media framework, as discussed in 301, is a robust model. It can accommodate multiple different workflows. It can simplify communications from the channel owner to multiple distribution partners. And one of the things I should mention is 224 is very useful because with 224, you can trigger with SCT35 and set a media point in the timeline. But 224 allows you to take information that was normally in that timeline and bring it in from out of band. So you could have a packager getting the 224 information and knowing how to populate on that trigger point. And that's a really important concept. And before with 224, that was just for advertising. But now we're saying let's apply it for content itself. And the other thing I need to bring up is SCT35 is having a new document, which is called SCT35-2, which is actually creating the 35 markers as more of a simple trigger over here as well. So as you see, this is all coming into conjunctions where, you know, we can create a more flexible media framework. Anything else I need to say? And it allows people to start evolving in the same direction if they can take a look at the landscape on here. And that's about it, and my time is up.
Thank you. Just one question from the audience, maybe?
Okay.
Any question?